Well, it's official. Chad Daybell's day in court is officially over. His trial is now in the hands of the jury. It'll be interesting to see what happens next. Will it be a quick deliberation, or will it take days or weeks to come back with a verdict on whether or not Chad Daybell is guilty for killing his wife Tammy, his second wife's children, Tylee and JJ, along with some other conspiracy charges? What do you think? Give me a vote below. Do you think the prosecutors, the state, proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt? If so, say yes. If you think he's going to be acquitted, let me know. I'd also love to know what you think. Do you think he'll be charged? Do you think he'll get the death penalty or a life without parole if he's found guilty? I would love to hear your opinion. I wanted to show you, there's just a couple of things that I wish would have happened during the trial that didn't happen. And that is, I would have loved for the jurors to go and to see everything that, see Chad's house and the property and the location. And at the very least, a video rather than just screenshots or aerial view, because it is different when you're on the ground, in my opinion. So I did a video to show you where things are and how the layout is. At the church where Alex sat and waited till it was time to go to the Daybell property. Also, the school building where Tammy and Emma worked, as well as the Del Taco where Alex went. So let me show you what I found. At times it's hard to really get a feel for what Chad Daybell's property is like, so I decided to drive by actually all the locations with the Daybells, just so you could get a better feel for what it's like. Now, behind Chad Daybell's house, it's quite rural. There's fields and farmland. Now, as we're coming up to Chad's property, you can see that it looks different coming from this side than having an aerial view. Right here is what we call JJ's tree, and on the other side of the tree is where his body was found, as well as Tylee's. I'll show an overview. This is the fire pit where it is alleged that Tylee was burned before she was buried. And then as you go along the property, you see that here's the fence that many people put flowers and signs up, which the Daybell children took down. Wouldn't allow people to do that in honor of Tylee, JJ, and their mother. Here's the Cozy Cone, the 2-story building on the back of Chad's house, which is actually Pryor's house now. There has been some testimony that Chad slept upstairs in the Cozy Cone. In fact, that's where he was when the investigators came to serve a warrant on the property when they dug and found Tylee and JJ's bodies. After Chad ran out of money for his defense, he had to give over his house to John Pryor, his attorney, and Chad's daughter Emma and her husband and 3 children now live in the house. Now, as we come to the corner, this is the part that I really wanted to show. You can see that the road that I came off was a rural road, and the house faces the highway, a busier road. Right here you can see Chad's truck is in disrepair. In the backyard, the hood is up, and it is no longer working, as we found out in the trial when Joseph said that they were given Chad's truck. This gate shows where it would be very easily to drive a vehicle to the back of the property in order to bury bodies without anyone noticing. It is rural, basically all around. Now I'll show you coming back. Now we're going towards Chad's house again. Again, we're going to see the truck. It's actually on the side yard, and you'll see where Tammy pulled up. There was the paintball incident, Alex ran around the side of the house. He must have been parked towards the back, I'm guessing, and made his escape. I just think that it's a lot easier to see everything when you see it from this angle. You can see that there's more than one driveway, and I wish that the jurors were able to come and to walk and to see this firsthand, because when you see just pictures, it is very hard to get a feel for what is where and how it all happened. That's for sure. Now, this road is much rural, as I said before, much more rural. There's only a few houses at the other side of it, so there's not as much traffic on this road. Okay, now let's go by Tammy's school, where Tammy and Emma worked. And I think it's interesting that Emma said that Tammy only had to walk a few steps to get from one place to the other. That's an interesting thing, because the school, it is small, but it's not tiny. And I just can visualize Tammy supposedly carrying her big boxes down the hallway, as Emma testified. My guess is to try to give an answer for why there were bruises on her upper arms in the autopsy. But you can see this has got a pretty big playground, and Tammy was the playground monitor. Now let's go past this church where Alex parked until Tammy got home. There's a house right next to the church that John Pryor tries to say could be what Alex was doing rather than he was in the parking lot. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We also know that Alex then drove after burying the body to Del Taco. And I wanted to drive it all because I wanted to be able to see how far, what the distance was. And it really isn't as far apart as you might think. Chad and Lori were walking around BYU campus. And there was one point when John Pryor suggested that Chad wasn't actually at Lori's place, but that he was at BYU campus. And his phone just happened to ping at her apartment. So I wanted to drive past the BYU campus and see how close Lori's apartment was compared to the campus to see if it was possible that his phone would ping. And let me tell you, there's no way. It is not even close. I mean, they're in the same town, but the distance is substantial. You're not going to get a ping from Lori's apartment when you're at BYU campus. Let's see what happened during a little snippet of the closing arguments.
And throughout the trial, you heard how Chad and Lori would go by different names sometimes, or they had code names, or persons that they claimed to be in prior lives. James and Elena were two of those names. Raphael and Lily, all really Chad and Lori. The James and Elena story was written by Chad, Chad's own words. And what do we know from James and Elena? In James and Elena, and you heard about this from Agent Hart, and you heard about it from Analyst Heidemann. James and Elena. Chad writes, at this time, their spirits could not be restrained any longer, and a long-awaited makeout session took place in that lobby. This was manifest in the mortal world to James and Elena through the scientific phenomenon known as loin fire.
Well, there we have it. What do you think? Did the prosecutors do a good job? Did John Pryor do a good job? Is Chad guilty or is he innocent? Time will tell. I will see you again soon. See ya.